I just had a thought, right? I think this is one of the flaws of intellectualism. And for someone that's always been a keen advocate for intellectualism, this is a bit, yeah, this is off center for me, but nonetheless is a thought, and I think it's worth exploring and expanding on. Um, Say, for instance, I write a book on any given subject. I would then refer to other books that other people have written as my reference point, essentially my buffer, if you like, or my kind of safety wall, if you like, to say, right, I'm saying this because so and so said this and he was around 1,000 years ago, so therefore it must be true. Or I can refer to some statistics that were carried out by such and such group, such and such think tank, such and such institution, whatever. And the more credible, quote unquote, institution it is, the more credible my facts are. But then you miss the key point that what if that study has been funded by a lobby group, a government, an organization to skew the data? This happens all the time. This is factually proven. That's number one. Number two, what if that book was promoted specifically during its time, or that author, philosopher, study was promoted or is promoted by the mainstream media specifically to push an agenda or to specifically skew the facts in a certain way? Because as a graduate of economics, I can tell you that in economics, we know that statistics mean nothing, because it depends on how you look at the data. You can make it look like anything. And until you ask the right questions to every single person that's affected by that specific set of variables and test for controls and etc., 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 you can never have credible stats. So generally what people do is they generalize. They take a sample group. They might take, a group of people within a certain demographic to try and get that to represent that, as essentially to make the data credible. But again, that's also not credible, because if you were to pick 10 random white people to interview, they all have 10 different life experiences. So therefore, the stats based on that will never be correct. Then you also have another layer of complexity, which is the bystander effect, or affinity biases, or whatever. So once the people recognize that people are given similar answers, or answers that look a certain way, they tend to drift towards that. This is for group exercises. Individual exercises might slightly be different. But again, people will still always give the politically correct answer, even if you tell them there's no comeback of or no potential to be wrong, if you like, or there's no right or wrong or whatever. People don't necessarily tell the truths. So stats mean nothing. So if stats mean nothing, if you write a book, say you're writing a book on masculinity, femininity, you're writing a book on society, and you've got all these stats in there, it doesn't matter what stats you have, it doesn't bring you closer to the truth. You just have generalizations, and those generalizations aren't factual. It's based on your perspective. I'm going to say that again. All you have is generalizations, because that work you're referencing, or the way society works, or the work you're referencing, the stats you're referencing, could all be flawed, and you can't adjust for those flaws. So therefore, the data in your book or your pamphlet, your white paper, whatever it is not sound. So what we have is a generalization. And now if that generalization now gets promoted as, oh, so-and-so's book, he's writing about this, and that's now promoted as factual, we're creating false facts you know. So that's just my perspective on the whole thing. So yeah, guys, be smart, man. Um, just because something's written in a book doesn't make it factual. It's almost like trying to prove your own argument with your own book that you've written. That's what it is. So you write a book and you're making a point and you're saying, oh, in my book, in page 15, I talk about this. Okay, what does that mean? It means nothing. That's the same thing as pulling on all these stats and data sets and quotes and news articles and whatever, because all those individual things you're pulling to bolster your argument are flawed. Because like we've just established, if say for instance a position is taken by the media on a specific subject, that could be for a variety of reasons. It could be for a myriad of reasons. Okay, so that doesn't necessarily reflect what's actually happening in the society. So that's number one. We've already spoken about data sets as well. So unless you're speaking to every single member of the demographic or the society or the group or whatever to gain a clear picture, you might say, yes, you can't, for the interest of time or whatever. But if you're going to carry out thorough research, that's what you have to do, because you can't pick a sample, because that sample will never reflect what's true. Because even if, say for instance, let me give you one simple example. Say you go to France, you go to Calais or you go to Dunkirk and you see the migrants and you pick 15 of them, right? And you ask them questions about whatever. Yes, they're going through something similar, so they have a similar experience, but they probably come from 15 different backgrounds with 15 different outlooks on life, 15 different life experiences, 15 different journeys to get to where they got to, 15 different motivating factors, 15 different drivers for their own lives, 15 different personalities and dispositions with their own biases and heuristics. Okay, so then if you were to ask them a question and they all gave you something and you said, okay, so you spoke to the migrants and 80% of them said this, or 80% of the sample group said this, that's a fair reflection on the entire group. That does not make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's stupid, so please don't get lost in intellectualism. I'm a big fan of intellectualism. If you listen to my videos, you see that I have I've walked that road, but you get to a certain state of, as you're learning and developing, you recognize that you need to be cautious in terms of what you accept as factually true, because we're accepting a lot of things as factually true that aren't true just because people say it's true, or just because we can pull these data sets or quote this person or refer to this body of work which also refers to that body of work, or refers to this, and we end up going into a rabbit hole. But then somehow that's presented to us as fact. So be very, very cautious, man, because what your eyes are seeing and what you perceive, if you see the sky is blue and somebody's telling you that it's not blue because the data set says it's not blue, and it's a type of mind control. So be careful about the things that you accept as true. A lot of people are walking on solid ground assuming that you're hurtling through space at a gazillion trillion miles an hour. They believe that. They think it's a fact. Okay? But then based on all this, scientific stuff, which if you test it, you recognize that it's not based on anything solid or foundational. Whereas, you can look at the way that, but then nonetheless, there are certain things that are universally true or universally factual. Like for instance, the way water behaves the way water behaves. That's just the way it is. The elements behave the way that the elements behave. If you change the environment of, the element, the element also changes in a certain way, and those things can be replicated over and over again. Until something can be, and this is actually the scientific method, believe it or not. Whatever anybody says is true, any hypotheses, whatever it is, you have to be able to take it, replicate it, scale it, repeat it, test it over and over again, and you should get the same results. So until you're working off that basis, you don't have a fact. So you can never say something like all people are this, all women are this, all lions are this, all dogs are this. Or no, you haven't, until you can test and scale, repeat, and then have the same outcome with every single lion or every single man, every single woman, every single child. That position is wrong. Is flawed. Anyway, that's just a short one for today. I know I've been away for a little while. I've been traveling. Yeah, having some good times with family, and you know how it is. So yeah, enjoy this one. I'll try and post more. I recorded a few voice notes on my phone. I've got some pretty good stuff. I need to just kind of, I don't edit my stuff anyway, so I'll just have to go through them and select them.